So continuing with our discussion of supply and the supply curve in markets, there is an additional piece of information that I can figure out when I look at the curves. In particular, let's continue with our milk market. That's dollars per gallon, quantity in gallons. And based on my data from before, I had my supply curve. The idea that we are going to develop here, exactly parallel to with what we did with demand, is the concept of elasticity of supply. So again, remember, elasticity is this idea of responsiveness, of how rapidly you can see quantity, like what level you can see changes in the quantity supplied in response to price changes. So if a market has a tremendous amount of responsiveness, what that means is a small change in the price can generate a very large change in the quantity. So it's going to be flatter. But on the other hand, if you've got far less responsiveness, then look at this one. It takes a very large change in the price to generate even a small response in quantity supplied. So this idea of responsiveness is we call elasticity, and the way we measure it is that we're going to take the percentage change in the quantity supplied as a ratio of the percentage change in price. So this tells me what percentage change in price generates what percentage change in quantity supplied. Now, a small note, when you look at curves, it's very often easy to focus only on slopes, but that's actually not the best measure of elasticity, because something can look like a huge change, but that's just unit dependent. So supposing the price goes up from 1,000 to 1,010, that's not actually a huge change in price. But something goes from $10 to $20, that's a doubling of price, right? And so what you want to think of is that you want to have this as a percentage change. So that makes you get a sense of, is it a big change? Because $10, if you're going from 1,000 to 1,010, that's actually not a huge change. But $10, if you're going from 10 to 20, is huge. So always remember, we measure elasticity both for demand and for supply, not just by looking at the slopes, though the slopes give you a visual sense of it. Is it flatter? So the flatter it is, a perfectly elastic response thing would be really almost horizontal. Almost no response would be practically vertical, right? But overall, it is much better to use percentage change in quantity and percentage change in price, so that we're not sort of making a mistake in terms of becoming too unit dependent. So this is elasticity, and this is a concept that we're going to return to later on when we come to the theory of the firm. And this is a concept that's also going to turn out to be quite important if you ever take trade theory and we take a look at competitive markets and responsiveness of markets to price changes across different countries. There is one final concept that we can get out of the supply curve, which is called producer surplus, just like consumer surplus. I'm not teaching it because we can only do so much, but it is something that if you're interested in learning more about it, when we come to international political economy, which you can take with me or with my colleague Professor Danby, we do use that concept and we do teach it to you, because it turns out to be a very useful idea when we're looking at effects of trade on consumers and producers in different countries. So when we come to that, if you ever take international political economy, you should end up learning that concept. But for now, I think for our class, this is enough. So that is what we learned about supply. We learned about the law of supply. We learned about the relationship between price and quantity supplied. We learned about shifts in the supply curve in response to changes in supply conditions. And we learned about the idea of elasticity, which is the responsiveness of quantity supplied to changes in the price. Thank you.